Kruger National Park just turned 100 years old. 100 years of elephants, of lion calls at dawn, of a bush so alive it makes you feel something deep in your chest. But right in the same week that the world was celebrating, something happened in the far north of that park. That's a spot I know very well, a spot that I visited on my very first time in Kruger 9 years ago, and I haven't stopped thinking about it since. 100 years. Think about that for a moment. It started in 1898, before the park even had its name. President Paul Kruger looked out at the bushveld of South Africa and saw what everyone else was destroying. The animals were disappearing. The ivory hunters had seen to that. So he drew a line in the sand and said, no further. It was a radical idea, and it very nearly didn't survive. Wars came, droughts came, politicians argued about the land, the cost, the point of it. But there was one man who refused to let it die. James Stevenson Hamilton. The Songa people called him Skukuza. He who sweeps clean. For 44 years he swept, and on the 31st of May 1926 the Kruger National Park was officially born. Do you know how many visitors came in that very first year? 3. 3 dusty cars driving into an ocean of bush that must have felt absolutely limitless. No crowds, no queues at the gates, just the uncertain, magnificent silence of the wild. This year, President Ramaphosa stood at Skukuza Rest Camp and marked 100 years, under the theme, Our Heritage, Our Future. I watched that and felt something, because Kruger isn't just a park to me, it's something else entirely. 9 years ago, I drove into Kruger for the very first time. Now, Diane had grown up in Zimbabwe. The wild bush was practically her backyard as a child. She'd told me stories for years about this part of the world. She knew the landscape, the light, the rhythm of it all, but knowing about it from her stories and actually being inside it myself, those were two completely different things. We drove north, right to the very top of the park, and I want you to understand something about the far north of Kruger. It is not like the south. The south is famous. The south has the big camps, the traffic, the queues at waterholes. But the north is another world entirely. Baobab trees, older than memory. Fever tree forests glowing gold in the afternoon light. Nyala, kudu, elephants in the riverbed, and a silence so deep it gets right inside you. And at the very tip of it all, where the dirt road winds through the bush and you suddenly arrive at the edge of 2 rivers, we found the place, Crooks Corner. To really understand Kruger, you have to try and get your head around the scale of it. We're talking about 4.94 million acres. It's roughly the size of a small country like Belgium or Wales, an ocean of bush that stretches on, mile after mile, beyond where your eyes can even follow. It's hard to imagine, isn't it? And the life that's tucked away in those 4.94 million acres, it's staggering. You've got 147 different species of mammal living out their lives here. And if you're a birder, like so many people who come to visit, you're looking at over 500 species of birds. It's a world that doesn't just survive, it thrives. There are 10 different gates that lead you into this place, from the south at Crocodile Bridge or Mela Lane Gate, all the way up to where we love to go, near Pafuri. 10 gates, and each one of them opens into a completely different corner of that wild world. You drive through that gate, you switch off the engine, you roll down the window, and you realise you're not just visiting anymore, you're part of it. I stood there and just stared. The Luvuva River, winding in from the left, meeting the great grey-green Limpopo, and right there, in that tiny triangular point of land where they join, 3 countries meet, South Africa, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, all in one glance. I remember thinking, how does a place this extraordinary even exist? But Crooks Corner didn't get its name from the beauty. It got its name from exactly what it sounds like. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, this remote triangle of land was one of the most lawless spots in all of southern Africa. Because if you were a wanted man, a poacher, a smuggler, an outlaw running from the law, this place was your escape hatch. 3 countries, 3 sets of laws, 3 borders you could cross in a single stride. No road in, almost impossible to reach. The authorities on one side couldn't follow you across, so the Crooks came here, and they stayed. There's a plaque at the spot, put there by Sandpark's honorary rangers, that says Crooks Corner became, and I'm quoting here, a natural refuge for all kinds of people who had no great wish to look into the eyes of the law, and who might suddenly need to flee across an international border. Ivory poachers, gold smugglers, fugitives from 3 different legal systems, all finding sanctuary at the exact place where 3 rivers, 3 nations and no man's law overlapped. When I stood there 9 years ago, elephant in the shallows, bee-eaters flitting between the fever trees, I thought of those men, what they must have seen from this very bank, whether they felt the same wonder I felt, or whether they were just looking for a way out. And now I have to tell you something that I found very hard to talk about. On the 20th of May 2026, just 11 days before Kruger's 100th birthday celebration, something happened at Crooks Corner. Ernst and Dina Murray, a couple from Mossel Bay. He was 71, she was 73. They had checked into the Pafuri area on the 17th of May, retired, travelling, in love with Kruger no doubt, just like we are. They were last seen at the Pafuri picnic site on the morning of the 20th. When they didn't return to camp that evening, rangers went looking. 2 days later, tourists discovered their bodies near the water, near the same rivers, near Crooks Corner. The first people murdered in Kruger National Park in 100 years. I'll let that settle for a moment. 100 years, and in the centenary week of all weeks, this. Their vehicle, a green Ford Ranger, was gone. Tyre tracks in the mud, through the bush, over a fence, into Mozambique, as if the old crooks of that corner had never truly left. Sandparks have increased patrols. The park has put out statements, but Ernst and Dina Murray's are gone, and I feel it deeply. Because they were just like us, they loved this place. They drove up to the far north, to the quiet remote, real Kruger, the part most people never bothered to reach, and it cost them everything. My heart goes out to their family. I can't imagine the grief. And just as I was finishing this video, news broke. 2 suspects have been arrested in Mozambique. They have allegedly confessed to the murders of Ernst and Dina Murray. Their vehicle, that green Ford Ranger, was found 350 kilometres across the border, the old escape route at Crooks Corner, used again, just as it always was. I don't know if that brings any comfort to the family. I hope, in some small way, it does. Ernst and Dina deserved better, and so did this park. And yet, I still love this place with everything I have. That might seem strange to say in the same breath. After everything, after the fear, after the headlines, after the reminders that nature does not bend to us and never promised to. But anyone who truly loves the bush, truly loves Africa, will understand. Because Kruger is not a theme park. It never was. It is not polished for comfort. It does not exist to make us feel safe. It does not perform for visitors. It is 2 million hectares of raw, living, breathing wildness. A place where life and death walk side by side. Where lions sleep beneath thorn trees, while elephants carve pathways through ancient dust. Where silence can suddenly become movement. Where beauty and danger share the very same road. It has teeth. It has borders that have never been fully tamed. And that, as much as it unsettles me today, is also why it matters. Because in a world that is becoming more controlled, more fenced, more artificial, places like Kruger still remind us that something real survives. That wilderness still matters. I think back to the elephants that led me down that dirt road 9 years ago, slowly crossing ahead as if time itself had stopped. The kind of moment you don't plan, the kind of moment no camera ever truly captures. The fever trees glowing bright green in the late afternoon light, golden dust hanging in the air, the distant sound of birds settling before sunset, and the rivers. The moments Diane and I stood quietly beside them and felt something we still can't quite explain. Not excitement, not happiness, something deeper, perspective maybe, the strange feeling that for just a moment the noise of life disappears and you realise the world is far bigger, older and more important than yourself. That is what Kruger gives people, not just sightings, perspective, connection, memories that stay with you long after the holiday ends. And this place has been doing that for 100 years. 100 years of protecting something the world desperately needs. 100 years of dust roads, campfires, early morning gates, and stories passed between strangers who arrived as tourists and somehow left feeling changed. 100 years of conservation, of sacrifice, of people who believed this wild place mattered enough to fight for. Generations of rangers who gave their lives, some literally, to protect what so many of us are lucky enough to experience. For us, for Ernst and Dina, for the 3 cars that first drove into the park back in 1927, for every family seeing an elephant for the very first time, for every person who arrived carrying heavy thoughts and somehow left feeling lighter, and for whoever drives through those gates 100 years from now. I don't know what Kruger will look like then, but I hope they still feel what we felt. That same sense of wonder, that same respect, that same reminder that the wild still exists. Happy 100th birthday, Kruger. Thank you for the memories, thank you for the lessons, and thank you for reminding us that some places are still bigger than ourselves. We will be back. This wasn't an easy video to make. It's a hard story told, and an even harder one to share. But I think, in its own way, it's a story that needed telling, if only to remind us that the wild, for all its beauty, is something that deserves our respect, our love and our protection. If this story moved you the way it moved me to tell it, if it reminded you of a sunrise you once saw, or a dream you're still holding on to, hit that subscribe button and come along for the journey. We're not done yet. We're already planning the road back. Back to our little chimney, back to the vastness of the north, and back to that park that truly feels like home. And if you've enjoyed this little slice of the world, every coffee you buy us over at Buy Me, the coffee helps us keep this engine running. It keeps us wild, and it keeps us wandering. You'll find the link down below. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and if you're ever planning your own adventure to the far north, if you find yourself on that long, dusty road to Pafuri, take a deep breath, look out across those rivers where the borders meet, and just know, it's worth every single kilometre. The journey back to Africa is just beginning. Subscribe to Woo Africa and come with us. The chimney is waiting, the dust is calling, no illness is going to stop us, and very soon we'll be on our way home.